easily. You don't need to have special knowledge. You simply start using it, and that's it. So these are city media and communities. Why? Because now it seems like we have a distorted story. Some city activists live in Facebook, others live in Contact, others in Telegram, others in Viber, and to get everybody together in a single place or to have one web page by posting information about oneself, what this city activist is doing, can be done through this tool.
Well, as far as mass media is concerned, if we're talking about large-scale mass media like online or 2.py, they're writing about big news. But people are interested in news from the neighboring house, from the neighboring courtyard, and they have no place to take those news from. And Yandex district or Yandex Rayon is one of such services to provide this kind of news. So we are laying the cables for the internet, and provide other services. So this is drawing classes or sculpture classes and tutorship. So you don't have to go to the end of the town, it's close by. And the representatives of the urban administration. So this is the most difficult thing. How to teach the representatives of the local authorities, be it a local police officer or representatives of the public utilities companies, to have feedback, and when they integrate in such a society, a district, neighborhood, they can make a statement, and it will be easy for people to address them. And sometimes people say that it's hard to get up and walk to the police station or the utilities building. Now you can go to this website and get all the information you need, and the local police supervisors then they stick their ads on the doors of the entrances to the houses, and yet it doesn't help. So Yandex Rayon is a platform for communication. It's to make communication simpler, to simplify it. And the important component is that Yandex Rayon unites people based on the location of those people. It can be a house, it can be an entrance to a house or a section of a building, it can be an entire neighborhood. They can their own news feed. It's easy and it has a simple automatic search for information. So here are a couple of examples of how we can use it for civil society purposes. Like the motto is, let's unite everyone who is not indifferent. It's like there is a special bus that does not come very often, so people can complain here and make those bus trips more regular and more frequent. We can have recommendations or feedback from your neighbors. Well, this is a children's playground, and people can ask how we can make a similar playground in our courtyard. So if you're more experienced and if you are a person who already has experience in making such playground, you can share this experience. So another thing is, let's talk about city news. So from the local, from the large-scale mass media, you already know about the popular events, major events, but what about the things that happened close by? For example, close to my house there is a fitness club where they hold skiing competitions. So you can go there, you can rent a pair of skis, and I didn't know about it. But when I was going to work, I saw a couple of people with skis and they were talking, and I just was curious, and I asked them, what are you doing here? And they said, we are participating in a competition. So how else would I learn about it if I didn't see those guys. Well, this is it as far as those Yandex district or Yandex Rayon is concerned. So this tool is operational in Russia. It has lots of users, and it has grown roots there, and people are actively using it. Thanks, Igor. I have 2 or even 3 questions. Question number 1 is, you mentioned that this is about cities and towns. So can it be deployed in rural areas too, in your opinion? Easy done. It is a problem of a urban dweller, because when an urban dweller talks about things, he or she talks about his or her city. So there are no limitations there, right? Yes. And it is area-based, and it depends on how the districts are mapped in so-called cadastres. As far as the villages and rural areas are concerned, there are no limitations here. And well, the only thing that in urban areas the civil activity is higher. But Svetlana won't agree with you. I guess she has an opinion about it. But I have a second question. One of the items, and an important item, was that getting in touch or connecting the representatives of local authorities or police officers. And now I know it's the administration of the central district. They now have a Viber chat of the utilities companies, local utilities management companies, and now the question is how we can get them connected, because we know there is a tool, we know we have a very strong commercial company called Yandex. So are there any maybe tools, or can we maybe hold negotiations to make them understand that it is useful, that it is not abuse of power on their part, and how we make them understand that this is a useful thing for the representatives of local authorities to be present in those tools, and so that people would understand why they should go and use that tool. Oh, that's a good question. Well, truth be told, we haven't thought about launching this product in Belarus. We haven't talked with the local authorities. We didn't think how we're going to connect or attract users. But in reply to your question, Anton, this is an initiative. We're not going to force anyone, either local authorities or ordinary citizens. We just provide a useful, easy-to-use tool, a platform for communication, and if the government, the state, finds it useful too, and is willing to use it, and this is going to be an additional tool for them, well, in our opinion. And if and when we decide to launch the product, we are going to have negotiations with the government, and we'll see how we can integrate them for them to work in a convenient and comfortable environment. So your representatives is ready to go to the presidential administration and discuss this product, describe the advantages and disadvantages of it. Yeah, you know, Anton, what my usual response is, this is our internal thing, and we're not going to divulge it or disclose this information, but we are going to work on it. My last question is, so Yandex Rayoni, we have a counterpart, an analog here in Belarus. It's a Viber chat. So, but it's not as effective. There is a lot of spamming taking place. Is there a mechanism from transferring people, from making people leave Viber and migrate to a new platform? Although the old platform may not be convenient and user-friendly, but how can we convince those people? For example, I can tell my people, like, let's go to a new platform, which is more user-friendly. What should we do? Well, the convenience of the platform and the outreach activities and among general population that's the only way to go. We won't be able to force them. We cannot go to a Viber chat room and block it or something. If people feel and find it necessary, and interesting, they'll come themselves. But when it can be launched in Belarus, because we're talking about some big future here, and when you need it, yesterday. So this is an open question. If anyone is interested in this product, please raise your hand. Well, I see that that's plenty of people, so we need to try. Thank you very much. We're talking about future here, the future of activism, but I would like to go back to heroes in the panel who already say that there are 2, 3, 4 years of experience behind your shoulders, and what form does it take? Because it might be good, there might be some good feedback or wishes for future products. So you said there you have data. How do you measure your efficiency? Anyone can start. Well, let me start. So I asked the same question recently, and I also established some kind of a deadline for myself last year. And my goal was to make the main street of the city. It's we're talking about my city, which is Lida, and to make this main street, which is 3-something kilometers long, and to make it barrier-free. So, like, the entire infrastructure is barrier-free. We're talking about some cafes, offices, so there are like local mobile communication operators and stores, etc. And nobody thinks about people on wheelchairs. So they just make their outlets without thinking of making it barrier-free. So if we aren't able to make the main street a barrier-free street, then how can we even mention a small retail shop somewhere in the suburbs? Well, we have still 3-4 outlets to cover, but it was very difficult. There were a lot of scandals, there were a lot of hyping, anti-hyping, there was a lot of different web resources involved. It wasn't, well, sometimes I did go directly to the manager and told them, like, did you ever thought about making your outlet, your shop, barrier-free? And they said, yeah, well, we can do it, or they can say, well, it's a kind of expensive. Let's come back to the question in a month. And when they do, they solve the problem. So we had a lot of news about Alexander taking a loan in MT Bank for a ramp for wheelchair persons, and there was a lot of media coverage on the web, and Alexander makes a lot of videos about him not being able to enter some kind of catering outlet or a store. So Imena, the names portal, how do you measure your civil activism? I think our main indicator is the money, is the amount of money raised. Over the 2 years, we raised more than $600,000. So it's very close to the Hive project. For us, yes, it's like 1.2 million Belarusian rubles. And each month we have more and more people on our platforms. Now we have 22,000 users. So you have each user contributes. Unfortunately, no. I don't have any data about how many, what was the share of people who donated funds. But we work with all our subscribers. We send out our news bulletins. But we are going to develop this whole thing, and we have a very strong Facebook page. And as far as I remember, we rank 6th in Belarus. We even surpassed Onliner here. So we wanted this panel discussion to be censorship-free, and I wanted us to speak about problems and possible solutions and maybe disclose some secrets. Therefore, we invited representatives of the authorities who would be able to adequately respond. So as far as I remember, Facebook did support Imena project by providing the opportunity of free advertising of the project. Can you please tell us more about this thing? Well, we do pay for ads in Facebook. We have a budget allocated for that purpose, and we try to keep our expenses within the budget. So I'm not working in this specific area, so I'm not going to tell about our benefactor who decided to help us develop our Facebook page for free, but we didn't receive any targeted support in Facebook. So we have a budget and we do pay for ads in Facebook. But a lot of projects, they don't have that amount of money or any kind of money. And unfortunately, Facebook recently ranks public pages and groups lower and lower. And a lot of NGOs say that the number of clicks is going down, etc. How do you manage to cope with that? I know that a lot of people, a lot of our audience comes from Facebook. Therefore, we do invest in advertising, and a lot of our employees have an opportunity, maybe a rule, if they are willing, to post our news on their own pages, and they do it using a specific algorithm. They do not post the link, but they post a picture and then add the link in the comments section. So we learned the whole thing, how it works, taking into account the new Facebook rules. But in our own Facebook page, we cannot post things the way we'd like to have it. So we have to give the link to our materials and not only post the picture with the link in the comments. But we're always keeping in touch with our subscribers, with our followers. We have 100% feedback ratio. So most of our team are able to reply to any question asked by our subscribers. So you develop this communication with your subscribers and followers. Of course we do. The algorithm is simple here. If people understand the urgency of the problem and the importance of the problem, they transfer money. And for us to be able to explain to them the importance of things, we have to constantly keep in touch with them. And there are a lot of people reading our posts, but they do not click on the link to see what the whole thing is about. And it sometimes irritates us when people start asking questions, although the answers are in the link itself. Well, you should know that people read the headliners without reading the body of the news. And that's the kind of issue we have to deal, and that's why we try to respond even to negative comments, so that other people who are reading the comment section at least get a picture of things. But we try to delete abusive words and bad language. So what about our social media? So I'll unite 2-3 questions into one. So for example, Medusa.io decided not to use their website as the only source of information. So one channel they are going to use for text, another channel is going to be used for videos, and it works without the ecosystem of social media. So does Yandex.Zen make a copy of their text? So the question is, how do you operate right now, taking into account that there is lots of information around and people would like to migrate from their usual media and environment? We are present in Odnoklassniki, in YouTube, Instagram, vkontakte.com, and on Yandex.Zen. But from the get-go, we were more quick to develop in Facebook. We know that there is an excellent audience in Odnoklassniki.ru as far as the stories that we tell them. And a couple of months ago, we thought about developing both Odnoklassniki and our other social medias. I have my doubts about Vkontakte because there are lots of young people there. What do you mean by young people? The age group? Well, under 18 and up to 23 years old. They are the most active audience, but while our target audience are older. Because those guys don't have money yet, right? Well, they're not, let's not say solvent, but they don't have, they're not yet ready to transfer money for some kind of internet project. Well, for 2 months now, we've been uploading materials to the Yandex Zen, and since our headliners are not like yellow newspaper type headliners, so that's scandalous. Although we did think about making some kind of an article with scandalous materials in it, but I guess our main channel right now is the Facebook page, yeah, and then website. But on your Facebook page you give a link to your website, right? But as I already mentioned, a lot of people read the post on Facebook and then go to the website and make the payment. They might not necessarily read the entire text. Sometimes the heading is enough for them to convince them to make a payment, but we understand that internet is our bread and butter.
No comments yet. As soon as it's out, we'll tell you more about it, but thank you for your questions. Let's speak about the efficiency of the hive. You have as much in your budget, as many of them in your budget as the names. What is the unique feature? Who are your activists? What do they do? And going back to the issue how we assess it, yes, metrics are the same, which is the collected amount within all projects, the number of people who have contributed, who are members of our society. What does it mean to be a member? We are talking about those people who have supported the project. They are the ones who do not only read stuff, did a repost, but who contributed something. How many do you have? Speaking in exact numbers, 27,500. This is our community at the moment, and it's growing every day as we speak. And I wouldn't say that we have a priority in terms of whether we are targeting bigger funds or a bigger number of people, because these indicators are equally important for us. And another important indicator for us is the number of projects. In the 3 years of the existence of our platform, we have about 650 projects. That's right. And this is also important for us. Speaking about who those people are, what is the target audience that supports us. So these are 24, 35-year-old cohort. Speaking about the previous platform and a large audience, so these are the principal internet users, yes, and we realize that these are the people who are interested in all the innovations and new stuff. Looking at the platform, we support not only social projects, but also projects directed at promotion of the products and testing the market and some marketing research. So it turns out that these are the people who like getting new stuff by making risks. Speaking about the gender composition, I'd say it's 50-50, maybe 2% more women. Speaking about the contributions, men make more contributions, bigger contributions, and women do it more frequently. So the average bill or average size of contribution per male audience will be $30-$35. So these are key indicators. Now speaking about what we're trying to achieve here, Anton was asking this. That was the question within the context of our presence in social media. This is what I wanted to add when Svetlana was talking. So the important indicator for us, the number of subscribers, because among the big number of people who simply registered on the platform and make contributions, we also have about 3,000 people who make contributions regularly. And this could be, the subscription size can be 5 rubles, 100 rubles, 200 rubles. So this is not one-time impulse. So this is a conscious decision to help this project monthly. Yes. My question: when will you have on the Hive subscription to the projects? I know you have had such a demand or request. We'll look at Photolaki, our competitors. Yes, there is a demand for that, but there is an internal understanding of what we're trying to achieve here. Because here we're trying to achieve, rather, to develop entrepreneurship, and the subscription is more of a support spread in time, but entrepreneurship, this is when you show your goods, you're either supported or not, and then you do it and you send it to people who support you, and then the subscription is possible, but there are some legal details which I'm not sure how can be resolved through our business model, because mostly it's not done through the donations, but rather pre-orders. So it's product crowdfunding, yes. As long as we're discussing civic activity here in the panel, we understand that we can go into social entrepreneurship. I understand that we are not excluding this, but there are some legal features here, legal traits, and let's take an NGO activist like Edward, who raised funding for telecom through subscription, because he understood if he reaches a certain amount, he can make it sustainable doing only this without working in Belset, for instance. Are you prepared within the context of support of the civil society with a certain limited format to include subscription format for NGO projects maybe? So this is a problem with the governments, yes. The main problem is government and the current legislation for the charity. It's more secondary. Firstly, it must be in line with the overall goals and objectives of our platform, which is the development of our community from the standpoint of art and self-fulfillment of people. For instance, if I want to collect money to plant trees next to the October cinema, and if I decide to raise funds for my administrative purposes, which would allow you to exist for 1 year, yes, we can discuss that, but in fact, a business model per se, yes, it's everything is individual, of course, depending on what projects we place on our platform. Everything should be logical and within the legislation. That's the most important thing. So we're not going to support the extremist sites, no. Also, there are restrictions in not posting projects related to crowd investing in the share, like equity investment. And we do not post projects which would be one side of the conflict. For instance, this is the decision. Can you explain about one side of the conflict? Best of all, some examples. Yes, of course. We were posting information about a project on high-power factory, and in this way were forced to close it down, because on the side of our police we found that their activity was illegal, and after that we were forced to put a stop to this project. And we were told that it's quite criminal. And did state authorities approach you for that, or it was self-censure? Well, this is a good answer anyway, because we unfortunately have to operate in these conditions. I had to ask this question, and you, of course, could choose not to answer this, because we all understand how it works. You can start thinking about it, challenges, difficulties, what prevents the full operation of civil activities in Belarus, going back to petitions by activities, and how you still understand. And this indicator that we use for the newly created petitions, about 35–40%, and the efficiency rate throughout the past 2 years was at the 60–70% percentage point. And out of about 35 created petitions, about 20 of them end up with a positive result, when the problem is either resolved, or we get a promise to resolve it within reasonable moment in time, or information provided that people are asking for, and so on. Naturally, we would like to increase this efficiency rate by increasing it from 60–70% to 80–90%, but unfortunately, it depends not only on us, but on the readiness of the civil servants to communicate with people and meet the needs of people and their demands. Moreover, there are indicators which we think are important, but might be secondary vis-à-vis the main target or goal: the number of registered users on our site and the clickability on our site. Recently, we have passed over a new boundary of 200,000 users, meaning that they subscribed at least once something. Yes, this is a very good indicator, we believe. The next one for us would be 1 million. As soon as we reach 1 million, we could be able to say that we have grown exponentially over this time. Perhaps these are the main indicators for us. In terms of the number of visits, we are comparable now to a rather small newspaper in Belarus. As a partner, I can add that we have access to statistics, and whether it is good or bad, but the main traffic for petitions, and we're talking about, first of all, the traffic which brings about new actions, people who sign petitions, are social media. Mass media, out of top, at the start of the project, starting from last year, really are going down quite fast, because sometimes they don't like to write about petitions. Sometimes people don't want to do a subsequent action when they learn about petition. For instance, as Svetlana said, they learn about the news. That makes them social active, right? Forget it. But the next step to sign would be more difficult for them. At the same time, when we spoke originally about 30% of people coming from social media, now this percentage is 65–70%, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, something like that. Another thing to add is that Anton is looking at details, I'm looking at dynamics instead, and a long time series. Indeed, at the beginning of the project, it was very important for us to get mass media, but then it were critically important for us. We got most of the referrals from them. I wouldn't say that, say, Onliner is not writing about us. They're writing about petitions, all right, and because of this, we get interesting articles, and we get referrals from 2.by and other media, but just that when the user base is growing, there's a qualitative change. People are starting to create their own environment, which is good. They don't no longer need mass media as intermediaries, as information intermediaries. They're sharing information, users, either with each other or through social media. That is why the share of referrals from social media are growing with the growth of the user base. I wouldn't say that social media are writing less, they're just standing still. Another interesting thing, we were talking about the Facebook, and Facebook is getting lost. Now that the Facebook group is growing, really, because we see the statistics that people quitting their social media and going back to social activity. Belarus is a depersonalized society. Everybody understands that there is only one person. There are no other persons in the context of people. That's when one specific person is saying something, I've signed, or please sign. When we talk about, say, neighbors, next door neighbors, or some person who sends him the petition, a person trusts him and goes to buy the link. Social media are growing because of the petitions group, but not the main growth is not from the groups that we are moderating, but rather from other people who are paying attention. And this is great because this is the social activism. When I learned or read the news, I signed, and I made the third step. I shared it with my friends so that they can help resolve this problem. That's very important. Yes, I must ask this question too. You're going to post it in Belarus, and how are you going to measure efficiency about this? Because you're not going to raise funds or anything. The number of users, for instance, a month ago, the neighboring chat was created about the closing down of garbage chutes. 100% of neighbors signed it, and only 10 didn't want to sign this petition. So I think we have a very efficient chat. In fact, the efficiency is well known. It's DAO, daily active users. There are no KPIs really, because we didn't have plans to develop them. I'm now thinking about entering the Belarusian market, and so there are no KPIs really, like daily active users. And I wanted just to underline one detail in our dialogue. So it turns out that we're on a different side of the barrier here. There are content-based stories, people who create content, who develop their own web pages, and there are stories about the instrument on looking for content, like social networks, social media, search engines, like Yandex.Zen, and it looks like in a big barrage of information which falls down on user or people. Only by high-quality content can you distinguish yourselves among other newsmakers. And here we need to understand and divide and subdivide. And I'm happy to hear here that the gender composition of their audience is more or less, and the age distribution is also well distributed. It's a very important structure if you understand exactly which user is important for you, or who this social activist is, and how to attract a social user, the social activist from other, say, age group. And by creating content for these different people, you will be building your audience. We understand this quite clearly. We have the maximum number of instruments in place, a good toolkit, if you will. That is why the efficiency of information content at the moment is as such. We have just 30 minutes left, and I suggest that now we subdivide in two parts. I sincerely hope that there are questions for us, speakers, maybe to each other. And the last question for our speakers to think, because we're going to ask it at the final stage, what problems did you encounter that you don't know how to overcome? That we expect short problems, because all of us can speak for hours about our problems. I understand that. So Svetlana, let's start with you. Yes, let's open up opportunities for questions to the floor, and just raise your hand when you're prepared to ask a question. If you don't mind, please introduce yourself first. And if you have a question for somebody specifically, make them known about it. I'm a private person. I have a question for Julia. Do you think that through your activity you develop women's community, meaning did you add new people into the pool who are prepared to engage new people, or are you fighting or struggling on the market of charity market, using kittens and puppy dogs? So are these new people who make contributions, or are you developing the charity market? I think our audience are also people who, long before the names appeared, who participated in different events, in, say, protection of some cultural sites, who helped kittens and puppy dogs. But I'm also sure that we have people are growing, and now we have names, or imena is a new tool for assistance, new tool for social activity, and the new people coming to us because people are sharing this information with each other, telling each other how they can participate in different things, how they can affect stuff. I'm sure that we can influence, and the projects that we support, they help us raise funds, and they also are quite influential. And when people see when with their own funds, independently of how much 5 or 150 rubles really affected a situation, most of the people then tell their neighbors and friends about this. And also do something. And even my father, who never trusted in charity work on my work here, finally said that you're doing great stuff. I subscribed and made a payment. And for me, it was a huge proof that we're doing something for a reason. And the audience is really new, and the old audience is getting ready. Because when people are reading about the same stuff, when they're seeing same old things, they get tired and they switch over.
So some background noises from the adjacent room, not from the translators. So in my opinion, the audience is new mainly, because the mechanism itself is not a novelty. Well, people chip in very often and used to chip in the past, but taking the form of crowdfunding is a new thing, and we need to explain people how it works, and for us to be able to attract them. But people feel it, and especially people who are fond of new things, because usually projects have some novelty component in it, and quite a large share is taken by literature. 35% of all successful projects are literature-related projects, and the translation of 5 volumes of Svetlana Alexievich works was one of the most large-scale projects, because people wanted to have those books translated, and they were very eager to donate. And it's difficult for me to call it a new or old audience. It's already there, and now they use the platform to support the project. As a person who supported a number of Hive-based campaigns, there is a feeling that on Hive you can always support a campaign doing new things, but at the same time they're doing interesting things that are not cannot be found anywhere else, like Alexievich volumes, the Aleskish handkerchiefs, and you cannot support those projects from somewhere else, but you can find and support them on Hive. Yeah, there is a switch in civil position when like your donation is like a manifestation of your inter ego. So who got the mics? You and they? Now it's gonna be, for now it's gonna be the people who will ask the questions. Can you hear me? Tanya Kovalenok, Educacja Info Portal. So I'd like to thank the speakers for a multifaceted input. So I have a feeling that things we're talking about right now is taking place here in this Minsk ghetto of activists, and looks great, but do you have any info about what's going on in provinces? Maybe Sasha can tell us and share his own experience, how people in the regions are involved in civil activism. Maybe petitions and Hive representative can tell us whether they track activism in regions and whether the activism is growing there. So please be brief, because we have lots of speakers, lots of questions, and we have very little time. On the main leverage for regions is the capital, of course, and large portals. Regions, LIDA in particular, use petitions very actively. We had like people submitting a petition about the cutting down of a alley, and then in Viber they united and continued this struggle. In regions, people are mostly afraid of what people in the capital are going to say. This is the ideal script for solving problems in regions. You can build a monument if on Tudbay they say that they're not going to build a monument to Devich, so that's a bad thing. But they're going to build it, yes, and everyone, it will be apparent to everyone that that's a good thing to do. That's my description of how people respond in regions. So in my personal experience, we have a lot of work outreach activities in regions, and there are like 50 or 60 districts, like district capital centers or villages. So everybody knows each other there, so it's easier to have face-to-face contact instead of using social media. But I agree that things happening in Minsk affect greatly regions. So there was a news in Tudbay, it's called Coach Armed Forces, and they're like, and the authors of the article took our picture from our Facebook page, like Good Neighbor from Facebook, and they didn't say where this picture was taken from, who is on the picture, on the photo. 5 minutes later, after the article was posted on Tudbay, I had a call like that they posted a picture of us saying that we are coach-based armed forces. Please remove it, because we're gonna get in trouble for that. And it means that if their activity goes beyond their settlement, beyond their town, if it goes and becomes posted on Tudbay or somewhere else, people are starting to get afraid. And there are two important factors here that Sasha said, that people are always looking back at Minsk. I remember your trip to Portugal when local officials didn't do crap, and for lack of a better word, but as soon as the ministry spoke out, things changed rapidly. When Minsk voiced their position, the situation changed in the region too. 2 weeks ago, we had a similar situation. We had a lady whose child had a disease when your bones become weaker and weaker, and then you fold in. I don't remember what's the name of the disease. So she posted a video on Facebook. She never posted any videos before, how she cannot even pick up that children and puts it on a stroller, and they had these wooden ramps, and the child grew older and needed to go to school. And what I did, I just reposted her vid, and in half a day later, some of the major portals wrote about this. And on the next day, the utilities management company called me and said, let's go and check this house together. And I said, I have nothing to do with that, because I just reposted. But they said that, please come with us. We're not going to argue. And when we got to that place, we saw that they are going to start the manufacturing of these elevators or lifters, lifting equipment for the wheelchair people. And they are going to mass produce these things in LIDA. But I think it won't go beyond planning stage. Do you tag regions in your mass media, on your websites? Yes, we do. But the farther we go, the less we do. I can't hear without the microphone. The speakers need to use the microphone. So another thing about regions, which is a very sensitive topic, people are afraid that they are gonna get in trouble. For example, people who are willing to put their signature on petitions, they are sometimes afraid that their signature or their vote is going to be seen by their manager, by the governmental officials. So people, they think that nobody likes black sheep. So, but I'm the local idiot, and I'm still alive. So but if I live somewhere else, not in in Minsk, I think I would be bullied by now. I would have been bullied by now. Well, internet helps you to remain anonymous because no laws on mass media or comments or whatever is going to change that. But the regions is still a sensitive topic because the local community is very local by now. And the fear of governmental officials is typical not only of regions but of cities, which are or towns that are satellites to Minsk. And we were going to write an article about health, and people told us like directly, without hints, that this is then that you're going to violate a number of criminal code articles, and we're not going to get involved in those because in Belarus any initiative, no good deed goes unpunished. That's a very true statement for Belarus. So I saw your hand first and then yours. So my name is Taras Karolitsky. It's from Green Portal. So they stole my question about regions. So let's ask a question about the integration with business. In your opinion, what's your opinion, view on how private business is active with urban-based activities or civil activities in general? Well, I can start and give you a short answer. We have very good relations with many companies because we see that business is interested in supporting. Well, it participates in a lot of benefactory and charity projects, and there is still a lot of demands for handcrafted things. We talked about corporate volunteerism. Yes, and they are also willing to provide their employees to come and do things like clean garbage, remove garbage, or cut down tree branches. Because we had a lot of requests submitted for volunteer work, and we send out monthly digests to the companies with the news about the projects that we're supporting. The business is ready in the city, but the city might not be ready. My project with the trees along the Независимости Avenue, where there were like $10,000 ready for planting trees, and the local authorities said that we're going to plant trees ourselves in the center, while you can plant on the outskirts, but it never moved beyond these words. So business is ready not only to support puppies and kittens, they are ready to support the civil activity projects too. Because we are talking about like this fact that they started doing business in Belarus can be called activity already. So your question, and then my name is Anton Parvenchik. I'm a researcher. I have a question to Vladimir Kovalkin. Have you ever faced a problem with the large numbers of fake subscribers? and collective and individual applications and petitions submitted to the local authorities. As far as the fake subscribers, well, it's difficult to do because each time you have to register, and it's difficult to imagine a person who would be willing to create a 100 or 200 alter egos with 120 emails and receive like invites and then go follow the link and subscribe. Well, you could create 2-3 fake accounts for a petition with 5,000, 7,000 signatures. That's not a very big number. But the whole mechanism is set up in such a way that it's difficult to use fake accounts to give your signature. So it's going to be very difficult, and you're going to waste a lot of time doing that. So it will be easier for you to spend time on promoting your project on social media or in mass media, and you'll collect much more signatures doing that instead of creating fake accounts. And what was the second question? I'm sorry. Well, it depends on governmental officials themselves, but there is a law, but it's very open to interpretation. Some governmental officials can interpret those petitions as individual requests. In Minsk, petitions are deemed as normal electronic applications. The farther you go from Minsk, the more largely this whole law is interpreted. Well, I would say that in 95% of cases at the moment, petitions are perceived by governmental officials as collective electronic requests. Because according to law, if there are more than 35 signatures, the governmental officials has to go and check personally. Therefore, so we do realize that, and we see it through their feedbacks, because governmental officials are not obliged to respond to everyone, to reply to everyone, but is obliged to respond to the first applicant and then ask that applicant to send out his or her response to everyone else. And that's what they do. They reply to the first signatory, and then they ask the first person to share their reply with everyone else. Therefore, this is the proof enough that such petitions are deemed as collective petitions, not individual. My name is Andrei Sushko. I'll stand over here for you to see me. I'm from Human Constanta, and we also cope with the issues related to internet-based activity and electronic democracy. So our panel discussion, it's great that IGF started doing this kind of discussion, panel discussions. But the panel is called from neighborhood chat to crowdfunding platform, and I still lack the ending to this title. Let me give an example. Belarusians, Minsk citizens know that a couple of days ago Minsk Gorispolkom banned the sale of alcohol drinks at night because it fosters crime rates, etc. So the next day, as you know, after the president interfered in this whole situation, Minsk City Executive Committee revoked their decision. So in this situation, one thing is missing. What do you think? Yes, it is us who are missing there. So what people thought about it? What civil society thought about it? Why don't we make a public discussion, public hearing, weigh all pros and cons and see what people think? And let's use the modern tools of involvement, and it could be easily done. I always asked how much Matalik needs to solve all issues. Anton, this is maybe my question to you and then to the rest of the panel experts. In your opinion, your activities that you carry out at the district level or social areas. I wouldn't address myself it because it's very difficult. Does it make us ready for being able to influence decisions at higher levels, like discussion of draft laws or initiate even draft laws? In other words, can we be able, can we affect higher level decisions? Well, it's very difficult to answer this question. For 20 years your opinion was trumpeted, tramped all over, so you lose the feeling that you are able to affect anything except like signing a petition. I'm talking about my own perception here, of course, but my experience tells me that the question was, what did we fail to do? Well, Matolka Help Me portal or Matolka Activist portal couldn't make any impact, if we're talking about the city level, on the decision level, on the city level decision making. Although I do some kind of collection of public opinions and a collection of data and present that data, but I do fully realize that I cannot affect decisions taken at the city level. I cannot affect the use of any kind of chemicals, etc. in the city, and I cannot affect the city development in any major way. But activists at the grassroots level cannot affect this process. Lukashenko, the president of the country, can affect it. The Council of Ministers, can we affect? No, we cannot. Let's ask other people. This was your opinion, okay? Because I think there are decisions that were taken after the involvement of civil society. My question to Anton is, all the decisions will be taken when your activities will reach every single apartment in Minsk. At the moment, a Facebook audience knows about you. The Facebook audience doesn't know about me, let's be honest. When there was a bloggers, when there was a survey among people about bloggers, Matolka was known only to 7% of Facebook audience. So let's be objective here. The one main problem here is both about Imena, Names Project, and Matolka, is that people are not aware of what's going on. They have no information how to affect things. They don't know anything about things already going on. And when I said that you need to reach every apartment, I was not being literal. You need to know that there is Anton like you, and there are like other 50 guys like you, and that they are finally able to do something, because I have 15 Antons here in central districts, in Moscow district. But until we convey the information to people about what they can do and how they can do it, I think
we, as us, a large audience, are unlikely to change things. So now we're talking about your resource. Can you really affect the decision making, and are you in the dialogue with the government? So now we're about decision making here. Let's be honest. It's tapping the foreign assistance, right? And that's the problem. Yes, there are a number of lines of action through which we communicate with the state authorities. Unfortunately, we do not have such a weight or authority as when we make an offer and they take it on board, like with the charity assistance from abroad. Any NGO must register money coming from abroad in the Humanitarian Affairs Department, which is a long bureaucratic procedure. When a person who collects such documents from the organization comes to the department, and this person is played a ping pong with from one office to another. We suggested to the department another scheme which we believe would have greatly streamlined the whole scheme of registering the money, but unfortunately they didn't they didn't take our words for it, so that could be the end of the story, because the project which collected $600,000 only domestically, as I understand, right? A huge number of people. I remember when people writing from Australia and United States who said that we want to help, and they are prepared to donate up $500 or $1,000, and this is a good example when a company Mina can address the problems that government has no money for when the state is interested, and they sometimes thank it, sometimes mostly non-publicly, never publicly. About the question about the simplification of getting the money that state is running short of, and they sometimes you sometimes pay taxes on them, not always, but sometimes. In the current political system or economic and financial system, don't answer him because he's provoking you. Let's give the floor to Igor. And a couple more questions, and we'll call it a day. Igor will start. I will start. So the question is about how to tap money. No, the question was about how to influence. Can we influence? Why are we doing this civic influence in the first place? I have a universal answer to this. There is an English system of precedent law in Belarus. Instead, we have the system of scandal law. The more scandals, the more is the probability that you will achieve something. If you want to do something, try to make a scandal out of it. Sasha is very good with that. Yes. So the bigger the scandal, the more sensitive would be the civil servant to different problems. Moreover, owing to the scandal, you can create new ways, new directions. Owing to the scandal, you can attract attention to the fact that people with disabilities have an accessibility problem to the basic public services. Owing to the scandal, you can one time make a hospital or executive committee create a barrier-free environment and then use this as a precedent to walk around other hospitals, so polyclinics, and see it is possible. So the country, we are a country of scandal precedent, so the court is replaced by scandals. The bigger the scandal or sensation, the higher is the probability of you doing things. In fact, you have answered this question on my behalf, but what I wanted to say or add here is that if we look behind, look back at early 2000s and how we tried to influence the situation then and what is happening nowadays, like for instance portal 115.bel is a beautiful thing. This is a portal of the Minsk City Executive Committee who are asking us for our complaints. This is unheard of in our country, but it has happened so far. It's the only precedent, but we are moving ahead. This is one thing. And secondly, the actual Belarusian society, the way I assess ourselves is people are less concerned about other people's problems. That now we see more concerned people appearing and popping up. People sign more petitions. We have communities appearing everywhere. A chat room on Minsk News with more than 3,000 people already, 3,000 subscribers there. Anyway, and everything's developing, and people find it interesting. We are not living behind the Iron Curtain. We look at how other people live, and that's why my purpose of today's presentation was to show how it's going on in Russia. Maybe Russia is not the best example of civil society development, but still there are good examples when we use local police officers or managers to do things. So I think together we can do stuff. Okay, we have time for one question left. If somebody has a question, you can do that. The time is running out. Actually, it ran out a minute ago, so you have a question, we'll give you a mic. If not, then we'll start answering the final question. Then no questions, we'll start answering the final question then. So my final question, it was asked a number of times already. Please be brief. Try to tell us what you failed to achieve, and I might answer the question what you want to do in the future, maybe. So you can answer it by 1 or 2 sentences only. What we need to do about what? About activism? Yes, about activism. You, Sasha Avdevich, you're the best-known wheelchaired person in Belarus who is not complaining, not only complaining, but also shows how to complain effectively. You take projects, you've met them, some of them succeed, some fail. Well, actually, I don't know about failures, but where did you fail over the past year, say? And what would you like to do in 2019? Okay. And 2 or 3 sentences maximum. In Lida we have a shoe factory making running shoes. They look very much like Adidas Gazelles, but they were even designed earlier than Adidas Gazelles. So it's an old school Soviet stuff, and guys cannot sell them. I don't understand how not to sell that. They cannot sell it because they're marketologists, 50 years old, and they don't want to post anything in Facebook or anything. They don't want to, and that's why the director is suffering, who is an adequate young person, and at the same time the director is simply prohibited to get in touch with white flag or famous horse-mounted warrior thing. So they cost only 30 rubles, like a burger. And why not we print then a logo of a company like World of Tanks or whatever. So this company could potentially buy, say, 100 pairs of shoes for $1,000. What do they get in their turn? They will get 100 people all over Belarus who will be running around with their logo. Will be better than there is a billboard, and nobody would pay attention to that. That's number one. Secondly, on the back side of shoes, we can print a QR code through which you can enter the web page of a person or a family who was supported by buying the shoes and giving all 100% of this cost of the shoes. Thirdly, you get community where you can see that Saladucha has this pair of shoes, and you see who else bought the shoes. I know the company who wanted to buy a billboard bought a lot of shoes that we sold them, and they get a good hype out of it, good PR. Okay, it was 1 minute of advertisement of the Lida shoe factory. Yeah, they just started. Okay, whoever needs to buy a pair of shoes, you know how to go to. All the rest things you can do, well, right? By posting a video on Facebook. No, not necessarily. Sometimes we do other stuff. The phrase, sometimes I do stuff, this is the magic set of words, because it's easier for me to write stuff, right? And when I was coming to Minsk, I had a problem, for instance. I want to buy, say, some boxing shorts, so Mark Formel. We have only one shop, Mark Formel, in Lida, an old shop with just 3 steps to it. What do I do there? I'm coming to a shop whereby the remote button come and post it out. I call for a shop assistant, give her this remote control and press the button, and she understands. She says, "I understand." There is a guy there, and so I didn't build any ramp there, but I can get in there very easily, and it costs just 18 rubles. So I'm no longer taking care. People do a ramp or something. No, I just did it differently. And then this shop clerk and other people start thinking something's happened. What about other Mark Formel shops? And it works. Thank you, Sasha. As for the difficulties, there constantly are friends here like media, us, and we are not always ready to speak about what we really want to speak about and how we want to speak about it, because we take care of the safety of our projects and people who we work for. We cooperate with the state authorities, we want them to hear us, to listen to us, to the third sector, to activists, and take some joint decisions and As an NGO, we also see problems with professional NGO teams in Belarus because a manager or a project coordinator in an NGO is a person who doesn't get that much money. They get tired often and they leave the business for better salary. So we would like to change the situation. Hopefully we're influencing it now. Speaking about our plans, we'll speak about plans in December and January. December 2018 and January 2019. But already I can say that we are prepared to launch a campaign for a few large projects. Also a project for which I'm rooting very hard, related to cervical cancer project. This is a disease which is on the 5th place in terms of number of oncological diseases in women. Well, I will speak more about our plans in 2 months' time, if you don't mind. Briefly about our difficulties and plans. Well, difficulties, of course, any starting business has difficulties in delivering, say, to our small business that this is a working model that is great to check on our new ideas. The difficulty in shaping up a more proactive society where we have difficulties, we also have plans. So everything is achievable, I think, and speaking about our goals are to increase the amount of collected funds and raised funds and form community so that our community could change the space around ourselves. What we would like to achieve, like in the 12 Chairs book, get mutual love from our civil servants and state officials. This is hard to achieve, and there are many reasons for that. One of them is that in Belarus, at the legislative level, we have next to no adequate instruments of social participation at all levels for all issues. And aside from the petitions, I do many surveys. And Belarus always gets lowest ratings, close to North Korea. Whoever does the survey, me or my colleagues, total lack of adequate social participation and equal communication, not like public discussion in form of awareness raising when people speak. This is what our country needs. The creation of such instruments and participation of citizens and their influence on public issues. We can start from the lower level, say urban level, housing and utility sector, social infrastructure related to healthcare and education. We can start with that, and then maybe the civil servants, by getting these legal instruments, won't be afraid to talk to some guys from Poland, or won't be afraid of getting fired for that, and will be more open for this dialogue. As far as we are concerned, you know, just 2-3 hours ago, I spoke about the difficulties, and I think our work is to overcome the difficulties in our life. They do exist. If there are no difficulties in life, who doesn't have difficulties? That would be people buried already 6 feet under. Whoever does the stuff is experiencing difficulties. As far as plans are concerned, I already have a plan to launch Yandex Rayon. I liked it very much. It's great that you have received it so warm-heartedly, and then do something which will help people, be it civil society or activists in mass media. If I hear at least once thank you from somebody about our project, I would be happy. Thank you very much. We're 10 minutes over time. I think we will be running short of the coffee break. It's great that this year at IGF we're discussing civic activity on the internet. We were mostly discussing instruments, and we hope that by continuing the discussion, and it will also be a tradition to bring together social activists in such fora, and soon we'll achieve the process of decision making, and we invite and have here civil servants and real decision makers, not only social activists, hopefully civic activists. Next year will be only people from KGB and the presidential administration will be sitting in the floor asking questions. Thank you, Anton, and all speakers for the panel discussion. It was indeed a very good start, and I would like to thank the organizers, Hoster By, for making it happen, for inserting into the program of the forum. Thank you. Hooray.